Alice. I'm going to have a go at answering your questions. Yeah, I wanted to be a comic book artist when I was growing up, and I spent lots of time in my childhood drawing. I think it really came from my grandfather. My father's side was an artist. He was deaf and mute, so his kind of drawings were his way of communicating with us. I used to spend a lot of time sitting with him, and he used to draw me pictures, and I used to draw them for him. So I think that's where it all started. And then, of course, as I was growing up, it was a long, long time ago, before they had video games and things. So reading and drawing was one of the ways that I used to entertain myself. I spent hours just drawing and making up stories of my own. Yeah, I was a real bookworm when I was growing up. I loved reading. I read The Hobbit when I was very young, and that really kind of opened my eyes to the fantasy genre. So I used to just read kind of almost all fantasy books, and I always had about 3 or 4 books on the go, which I still do now. I think that's really important for children to read. I think it helps develop their imagination in ways that kind of watching films or playing computer games doesn't do. So I think it's very vital. The funny thing is, nobody really said I was good at writing. I never even thought I was myself until I was an adult, because I was quite good at drawing when I was young. That was always my thing, and everybody always thought of me as the kid who was good at drawing. And I think you kind of label yourself when that happens. And I thought of it myself. I thought, oh, I'm good at drawing. I have to be an artist. I didn't really try other things. Um, and it was only when I got older and I started writing in order to have stories to illustrate that I discovered I loved writing, and I was actually better at doing that, I think, than the drawing. So it just goes to show you should always try new things. My job before I became a writer was as a teacher. I was a teacher for 15 years, and I taught what we call reception or kindergarten, so 4 and 5 year olds in that first year of their schooling. And I have children of my own, obviously. So I think when I started writing, I started off writing short stories for adults, but I always felt drawn to writing children's books, and I felt like I kind of understood more what children wanted from a book. And also because when I was growing up and I read those books, and they created that kind of magical feeling, I wanted to do that same sort of thing myself for children and new readers. So that's what prompted me to write for children. Yes, I've got some more books coming out. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, everything's been delayed a little bit. But next year, 2022, there it hasn't been announced yet, so it's a little bit secret. But there should be some new books coming out from me, some new worlds. Very excited about that. Well, I was trying to come up with an idea for a new story, a new series of books. It's very difficult to come up with ideas, especially original ones. Um, but I love drawing, and I keep sketchbooks and notebooks of all of my doodles and things like that. And one day I was kind of just flicking through those, and I noticed that every now and then over the years I'd drawn pictures of rabbits, but rabbits with swords and spears and shields and things like that. And I thought to myself, this kind of might be an idea that's trapped in my head and is trying to come out. So I thought it'd be a really good idea for an original type of world. I know that stories of rabbits have been done before on Watership Down, for example, but not kind of fantasy rabbits or anthropomorphic rabbits. So I sat down and I started building a world where just rabbits live, and having warrens instead of cities. And as I got into it, I discovered it was a kind of quite original way of looking at the fantasy genre. Well, originally when I wrote the first book, I didn't know if it would be published, or I didn't plan on it being a series. But then obviously when it got published, they immediately said, "Can we have some more books?" So I had to sit down and kind of develop it into a series. It is very complicated. You have to have, beyond having the kind of the progression of their characters in one book, you've got to think about how they're going to progress in a series of books. So you're thinking about very long story arcs. And with mine, there's an element of the story happens in the past and the character there in the present as well. So you're thinking about what's happening to two sets of characters. But there are interesting things you can do with that. You can kind of play with people from the past coming into the future and vice versa, and mixing it together. So it takes a lot of thought and a lot of careful planning before you even start writing. And I have stacks of notebooks where I kind of sketch everything out and link everything up. But I think it pays off in the end. Yes, definitely. I have three children, so I've put a lot of them into Podkin, Pukin, Paz, especially the kind of the quarrelling and that kind of love-hate relationship that goes on. And also, I am one of three. I have two younger brothers, so I put a lot of their relationship into it as well, and the way we used to fight and argue and things. So it's really good to kind of draw on real life when you're putting, even if you're writing a fantasy story, you put elements of things that you've experienced into it. So I have a book out, kind of a book out a year now in the Five Realms series. It takes me probably about, I like to spend 3 or 4 months writing the first draft, and then when that's done, obviously it goes off to my editor and it comes back with some changes, and I do another rewrite, and then hopefully it's okay, and then it goes to a copy editor. And I have to go through kind of line by line and change it, and then it goes to a proof editor. So the whole thing takes probably about 6 or 7 months of writing, and then, of course, there's the illustrations and the cover and everything else. I've got a brilliant illustrator called David Wyatt. And in the UK, I have a great illustrator called Fernando Juarez who does the covers. So, book six, um, I have just finished doing my first lot of edits on that. So it's all written. My editor's made some comments. I've changed that and sent it back. I'm waiting, fingers crossed, hoping that my changes are okay, and it might go to the copy edit soon. I've just last week had through the kind of the rough illustrations from David Wyatt. That's my favourite part of writing a book, is when I get his illustrations through and I can see kind of visually how he imagines the world. It's always exactly the same as the world in my head, and they are amazing. I was so pleased with them. And hopefully the cover will be along soon. So within the next couple of months, there'll be a cover reveal, hopefully. Very exciting. It comes out in October. So at the moment, obviously, during the pandemic, I have my children at home, so I'm homeschooling them, which is very tricky. So I spend the morning doing that, and then my partner teaches them in the afternoon, and I come upstairs where I am now in my bedroom and try and do a bit of writing. But obviously, with three children in the house, it's very noisy, so I'm kind of going at about half speed at the moment. Um, but also writing a book, there's more than just kind of sitting down in front of my keyboard typing. There's time spent thinking of ideas and planning things out, and also kind of lots of emails and things to answer as well. So I'm actually, yeah, quite busy during the day. yeah, I'm always very intrigued by that kind of the outcast and the outsider, uh, and also I'm aware that in fiction, a lot of people aren't represented at all. Girls, for example, aren't represented a lot, and lots of different people from different backgrounds aren't represented. So I think it's important that when children read a book, they can see themselves in it or someone they identify with. Obviously, if it's rabbits, it's going to be a bit tricky. But I know a lot of people, when they're at school, a lot of children at school, feel like they're excluded or they're outside of the group, and it's an experience that all children go through at some point. So I think it's very important to have that in there. And also in fantasy books, it's very often very male dominated. So I think it's very important to have lots of strong female characters in there as well. Yeah, I won the Blue Peter Book Award. It was one of the awards I won. Um, I'm really pleased with that because a lot of book awards are voted for by panels, by booksellers and judges, but the Blue Peter Award is voted for by children, which I think is really important because then it tells you that children are actually enjoying your books. Prizes are really nice. They're especially good because they get your book noticed. But yeah, but the most important thing is having people that children that love reading it, especially when I hear from parents or teachers who say they had children who've had trouble reading or haven't enjoyed reading it, and then reading my books has made them develop a love of reading. That's the greatest thing for me. That would be nice, but a lot of people think because you're a children's writer, you're going to be like J.K. Rowling and be a millionaire. Unfortunately, you don't make a lot of money. I'm very lucky, actually, to have been able to give up my day job as teaching and write. I had quite a good American deal, which enabled me to do that. But yeah, the amount of money you make from writing books, especially in the UK, is very, very little. If I had to survive on just my UK book deals and sales, I would still be teaching right now. So I'm very lucky that Podkin has gone to America and Romania and lots of other countries around the world, and that's kind of enabled me to spend my life doing my dream job. Thank you for the questions. I hope they're okay. Thanks for reading the books and for all your support. Thank you.